A 14-year-old boy is among two Singaporeans issued with restriction orders under the Internal Security Act. The other is a 33-year-old former public servant. Now, they were self-radicalised online by the ongoing Israel-Hamas conflict. The teen is the youngest person to be dealt with under the ISA in Singapore. The Secondary 3 student had viewed pro-Hamas content online extensively. By January, he supported Palestinian militant groups and their violent acts. He wanted to join the Black Flag Army, that's a mythical Muslim army. Now, he was resolved to do so even if stopped by authorities or his family. The youth tried but failed to radicalize and recruit his schoolmates and started an online chat group where he shared videos and links on armed violence. He was willing to conduct attacks in Singapore on BFA's instructions against non-Muslim communities during local festivals. Investigations to date indicate that the youth acted alone. As part of his rehabilitation program, he will undergo religious and psychological counseling. ISD officers will also be working closely with his family and school to ensure adequate support for him and that his studies will not be disrupted.
Those radicalized are getting younger. This is a global trend. We have seen several cases around the world of armed violence by self-radicalized young people. Recently in Sydney, in London, you've seen young boys being picked up. In Singapore, 40 self-radicalized Singaporeans have been dealt with under the ISA since 2015, and 13 were aged 20 or under, so you can see for yourself.
The second individual is Nadia An-Nahari, a former manager at a statutory board. In May 2021, she came to the authorities' attention when her online posts were found to have the potential to incite social disharmony. In April this year, she made online threats to attack and kill Israelis. Nadia also joined several social media groups that shared information on Hamas military operations. She would identify herself as a Singaporean in these groups and openly supported the Islamist militant network Axis of Resistance and their violent operations. Now, she also called for violence against Singapore. Nadia maintained close online contact with several foreigners supporting the AOR, exchanging violent and extremist views with them. She also became an administrator of a social media channel that garnered support for the AOR and encouraged her family and friends to join the channel.
You can see the two cases show that overseas conflicts can affect us internally. You can also see the risk of extremist narratives. They threaten our own national security and social harmony. Singaporeans are deeply concerned about the situation in Gaza, and rightly so. But sympathy for any foreign cause cannot mean we can support or allow terrorism. Action was taken against a young boy and Nadia, not because they supported Palestine, but action was taken against the two of them because of their support for armed violence.
Counter-terrorism experts warn that children are particularly vulnerable to radical ideologies online as their minds and ability for critical thinking are less developed. This comes after a 14-year-old boy is among two people issued with restriction orders after being self-radicalized by content from the Israel-Hamas conflict.
This is why terrorist groups, threat groups target young people. That's why they are very susceptible. So it's no big surprise to me that, since we've had the explosive growth of social media, this has intersected with youth psychology to produce, among other things, an uptick in youth radicalization around the world, not just in Singapore or in our region, but around the world.
Analysts say with a high volume of news and images on the conflict that's easily accessible on social media, it can be tricky for youngsters to determine what is true or not. That's why parents should emphasize to their children proper research and fact-checking.
If my daughter takes an interest in caring for people who are suffering, I think that's something to be proud about. But I do want to also emphasize to my daughter that I will be more proud if they go on to do research and have dialogue about it and then come to speak to me in a much more, having processed it.
As part of his rehabilitation program, the 14-year-old boy will undergo religious and psychological counseling. The Education Ministry tells CNA that for such cases, schools will work with ISD to support the children to move on in a positive and purposeful way and continue with their studies. A local charity serving the Muslim community urges people to express their support for the Palestinian cause through legal and peaceful means. AMP also stresses the key role families play in safeguarding their loved ones and for parents to be positive role models and support their children.